Hey everybody, this is Russell, and I am so honored and excited to get to spend this weekend with you at Dnow. You as leaders are on the front lines of Dnow. You are the ones that are going to make this a powerful, transformational, impactful weekend through our students as you allow God to use you to speak wisdom and to show love to these students. And so, thank you for spending your weekend investing in these teenagers. We have about 65 teenagers signed up right now. We hope to have more in the coming days. And each of you will be in charge of a group of around 10 to 12 of these teenagers with another leader. And so I'm sending out to you a list of all the leaders and what group you're with. In just a few days, I'll send out a list of all the students in your group with a list that includes some details about each student. And then on Friday, you'll get to meet those students. What I want to do right now with you for the next few minutes is just briefly give you an overview of the weekend and the schedule and give you a few tips, a few things you need to know to prepare yourself and to be ready during Dnow to let God use you. And so I'm sending you a schedule as well. And so you can pull that up or look at it right now. And I'm just going to go through the schedule and talk about a few different things. And so Friday night, please try to be here by 5:30 p.m. in Manna Hall downstairs. Be here at 5:30. We will meet in Manna Hall for about 20 minutes at 5:30 to just go over any last minute details, to pray together. I'm going to give you a binder with all this information I'm sending you and all the other stuff for the weekend. And we'll spend a little bit of time in prayer before the students begin arriving. And so the students will begin arriving around 6 o'clock. At that point, they will head upstairs. They'll get checked in downstairs, leave their luggage downstairs. There will be signs for where they can put their luggage according to their group. And then they'll head upstairs to hang out until around 6:35. And so from around 6 to 6:35, some of you can be downstairs welcoming students. The majority of you can just head on upstairs. And as students get there, or let's do this. Let's say all of you can be downstairs at first. Buy your luggage sign. And so as the students get there, you can be there to greet them as they drop their luggage off. And then at some point, if you want, you can go on upstairs and hang out with the students until 6:35. Try to find some people from your group, just interact with them, just supervise whatever is best and most comfortable doing until 6:35. And at that point, we'll head into the den for our first session. At some point during that intro, I'll kind of introduce you and call you out so all the students can know who you are. And then we'll have some worship, we'll have a sermon. After the sermon, we will have a time of small groups. We may, before the small groups, have a short personal reflection time where the students look at the small group questions and think about their answers for themselves before they go into the small groups with everybody, where they'll be invited to share some of those answers. And we may do this so that they can have time to process what they've just heard and think about it so that they can maybe be more willing and ready to share in those small groups. But we will do the small groups after the sessions in the different rooms on the third floor of Central. And so you'll head with your group to the room that corresponds to their Sunday school class to do these small groups. And I'm sending you out the small group questions and sermon notes. And so you can go ahead and be looking over those, and the students will have those as well in their booklet. Saturday or Friday night, when they get done, there'll be some pizza for y'all to eat, hang out for a minute, and then head off to the host homes around 9 o'clock. When you get to the host home, you can go ahead and meet the home hosts, and just let them tell you anything that y'all need to know about their house, where you're sleeping, where you're showering, if your group needs anything. By the way, if someone in your group forgets to bring a sleeping bag, we have plenty of extra sleeping bags at the church. Just make sure to get that before you go. And get all the rules from the host home about what you can do, what you can't do, where you can be, where you can't be, just so everything is clear. And then for the next few hours, y'all can hang out, you can shower, you can talk, and then at some point around 11:30 p.m., I would encourage you to tell them to start winding down, or I may put on the schedule even at 11 p.m., encourage them to start winding down, getting in their sleeping areas, because they're going to want to talk and hang out for a while even after that. And then around 11:30, encourage lights out. And I would say one thing to keep an eye on is cell phones throughout this weekend. You have the authority at any time to tell students to put their cell phone up, whether it's distracting them or someone else, and during a session or during a small group, and even during at the house. If someone's using a phone and it's distracting other people, they can't sleep, make them put it away. If at any point you suspect they're doing anything on their phone that's not good, that looking at something they shouldn't be looking at or doing something they shouldn't be, at that point you can say, hey, I need to take up your phone, and you have the authority to do that. I will tell the parents that you have that authority. And if we need to, you can contact me at any point with any issues with that or just any behavioral issues. I'll have my phone on me the whole weekend. So if there's something that happens, that you need someone else to handle, then feel free to call me at any time. But once you go to bed at the host home, the next morning you'll wake up, someone's going to deliver breakfast to you, make sure they're up, make sure they get going, and then around 9:30 after that, you'll head up to the church. We'll have our second session. The same thing, small groups after that. And then for lunch Saturday, we'll all go out to eat as a group. So your group will talk and choose somewhere that they want to go eat for lunch. And so a few suggestions for that when they're having that conversation is, maybe go ahead and ask them Friday night or Saturday morning to talk it out. But you are ultimately the one who decides where y'all are going to go eat. And so I would say pick somewhere that is not too far away, that is not too expensive, but it still can be a nice place. And then if there's disagreement, like I said, you make that decision. And all of the students should have money to go out to eat, but I'm also going to give each of you a $20 bill to pay for a student that may not have enough money or a student that may not have any money. And some of you will have groups where I know the students are not going to have money, and so I will go ahead and give you some extra money to pay for their lunch, and you can just make it very casual, like, hey, I got your lunch. Go ahead and let that person know that before, so they're all right. And after you go eat, which eating is just a great time to hang out together, after that you'll go back to the home to rest, to recharge, to relax for a few hours, and around 3 o'clock you will head back up here to the church. What you'll do as soon as you get to the church Saturday afternoon is grab your t-shirts downstairs, you'll head upstairs, encourage them to put the t-shirts on. Then we will meet in the den for just a minute to give some instructions for the afternoon. Then we will take a group photo on the 3rd floor. And after that, we will have our free time activities, which will likely be outside during that time on Saturday afternoon. So we'll be most likely under the pavilion and in the fields and on the court outside of Central, and there'll be snacks out there. We're going to have a coffee cart come out there. There's going to be drinks, and that will just be a few hours for them to relax and have fun. And even if they don't want to run around, we'll have plenty of areas to hang out under the pavilion. And so during this time, I want to encourage you to just interact with students from your group. Do what they want to do. Have conversations with them. There's a chance I may pull some of you to help me with something specific during that time, but if I don't, just be with your students. And then at 5:30, we'll head inside, we'll eat dinner in Manna Hall, then we'll head straight upstairs for our 3rd session on Saturday night. After that session, there will be no small groups. You will just go straight to the host home, because Saturday night is when we have our one-on-one conversations with our students. And so we do this every year at Dnow, and it is always the most impactful part of the weekend for our students. And it's just where you are going to take time to sit down with each student one-on-one. You and your other group leader can divide that however you want to, but every student will have a one-on-one conversation with you or the other leader, and I will give you a list of questions and topics for you to talk about with that student. This is really like the one time all year we can sit down with every student in our ministry just to listen, just to see what God's doing in their life, to hear about their struggles, and to offer them encouragement in the midst of all that. And so you're going to have a list of questions and categories of things to talk about with them. These are all things that we would like you to cover during those conversations, but certainly you don't have to cover it like bullet point by bullet point or question by question, but these broad categories of things going on in their life, like their home life, their school life, their romantic life, their spiritual life. We want you to talk about all those things with those students. And during that one-on-one conversation time, that's when you'll have the chance to really help them process what they have learned throughout the weekend. And even the lesson on Saturday night, since we're not having small groups, Saturday night during those one-on-one conversations will be the time that you have to talk through some of that lesson with them and help them apply it to their life. And then you can pray with them. You can answer any spiritual questions they may have. I would encourage you to talk about, if they're not a Christian, what it means to begin to follow Jesus. And one of the last questions will be, what is your next step that God wants you to take in your relationship with Him? And that's a great time to help them become a believer or figure out what that means or whatever it may be. Is that Saturday night? Those conversations, sometimes they'll take 10 minutes, sometimes they'll take an hour. But I would encourage you to challenge and encourage and be patient with all the students. Allow them to talk. At least a little bit about what's going on. Some students will be more quiet, but just go through the questions with them and let them answer them as they want. And the ones that may take longer, that's okay. You may be up late Saturday night, but we are starting these one-on-ones hopefully by 8 or 8:15 p.m. And so you should have plenty of time in those 3 or 4 hours to get these conversations done with your co-leader. And you will have a binder. And so anytime you have a one-on-one conversation with a student, what I'll have you do is write their name at the top of the page. And then as they're answering questions, you can either jot down quick notes next to the questions on that paper, or when they're done, you can just kind of go back and write down their answers somewhere on that paper. And that will greatly help me because it will give me, someone turn the lights out on me, but it will give me, as their student minister, an understanding of where they're at spiritually so that I can know how to best teach and structure our ministry to meet their needs. And so thank you in advance for having those conversations with them and being a listening ear to them, a listening ear that so many of them do not have. And our topic for the weekend is we're going to be talking a lot about trauma and about terrible things that we sometimes go through in this broken world. And the students are going to be encouraged to identify things that have happened in their life that have really wounded them, things that have really hurt them. And these may be things that have gone on in their family. Maybe it's things that they've just experienced personally. It may be things they've never opened up to anyone about before and never processed for themselves before. But through our speaker, D.T. Shackelford, sharing his own story of this, they're going to be encouraged to identify what are these things that have happened in my life. But even more than that, to trust God, that God can see them through whatever hard thing they're dealing with and help them move on past it to even be used by God to help others who are struggling with the same things. And so a lot of these topics, they're going to be heavy, but I will tell you that this topic is super relevant for the students we have in our ministry right now. A lot of them have been dealing with some very, very difficult circumstances and tragedies. And so I'm really thankful that DT is going to talk about these things with our students, and I think it will really have a great impact on them and understanding how their faith connects with what's going on in their life. And so moving on to the last day, Saturday or Sunday morning, you'll have to wake up a little bit earlier, make sure everything's cleaned up, do a run through, make sure they have everything, ask the host home what they need to do to, help clean up. And then head up to the church, head up to the 3rd floor. We'll have breakfast up here. Soon after you get breakfast, I will meet with all of you as leaders briefly for about 10 minutes in the den just to talk through a few things with you and give you a survey to fill out just about the weekend. One more thing about Sunday morning is that when you come in on Sunday morning, they'll have their luggage with them. And so there'll be those same signs right beside Manna Hall in the hallway by the library for them to put their luggage in the appropriate place. So they'll do that on Sunday morning and then head up to the 3rd floor. Make sure to wear your t-shirt on Sunday morning and encourage everyone to as well. And then on Sunday morning, after they've ate breakfast, we'll gather all back together one more time for kind of an interview-style conversation with DT to wrap up the weekend. And then we'll all head downstairs to the worship center. And in the worship center, there will be assigned rows for your groups to sit on during the worship service. And so go down there with your group, sit with your group during the worship service, and after that you can say your goodbyes and everyone will head out. So that's the basic overview of the weekend. A few other things are that, first of all, you will have a bus driver. Some of you are driving the bus or driving people in your group, and you'll know who you are. But if not, you will have a specific bus driver that will take your group around. And so you are welcome to ride on the bus, or you are welcome to drive your own vehicle to the host home. And another thing is there should be no students driving throughout this weekend unless they have a time away form, which I will give you the time away forms for the students in your group at some point on Friday night. And some students may have to leave for a game or may be getting there late. And so the only way that they will be able to drive themselves is if they have one of those time away forms. And at no point should another student be riding with a student who does have to drive. And so that's how the transportation will work. Let me see here if there's anything else. Now, I'd say as far as clothes for the weekend, it's going to be a little bit cooler at night. The weather's looking like high 30s, and then during the day in the 60s. And so Friday night it's going to be cool. Bring a jacket. Saturday, we'll have all our stuff in the morning, and then in the afternoon for our free time and evening session, you'll probably want to wear something more athletic type clothes that you can run around in and hang out outside in. And then Sunday you'll be wearing your t-shirt, and so just bring some pants for that for church. If you have any questions about the weekend, feel free to reach out to me. With the small groups that you have after the sessions, small groups are a hard thing to do with teenagers sometimes. You may have one person who takes over, or just the whole group not really wanting to talk. And so I would just say, number one, embrace the silence and the awkward. It's okay. A lot of times they just need a minute to start talking. I would say also, there are a few students who are difficult, but it's okay to tell them, all right, let's move on. All right, let's hear someone else. Don't be afraid to be firm in that. And then, just try to have a conversation with them. Chime in with your own opinions, with your own experiences. One thing I would encourage you to think about, even this week in process, is what difficult things have you dealt with in your life? And how has your faith in Christ helped you get through those situations? How has God met you in the midst of the pain, and how has He worked through that to bring you healing? Because you will get to share some of your own testimony with the students in these small groups, and that will be a really powerful moment for you and for them. And so that's all the details of the weekend. Like I said, ask me if you have any questions. I'm sending you all this information, and then I will also have a binder for you when you get here with all the information in it. Thank you so much for being willing to help. I'm so excited, and y'all be praying this week for Dnow and for God to transform the lives of our students through this event.